How's it going, everyone? And welcome to a Final Fantasy Catgirl edition of No Excuses on VTWProductions.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, are still.
And Volacel, and you said it wrong. It's Cat Grill, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It's Catgirl.
You're not allowed to speak correctly in these parts. We're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week that was, such as it was, though there wasn't a huge amount of news this week either. We're still in the slow season, and it's probably going to slow down even further until they start to build hype for Christmas stuff. Anyway.
Oh, what? I'm right in front of you.
If you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join our Discord server and chat to the show hosts and other listeners to the show anytime you like, and you can get to that Discord server by clicking in the link provided in the show description underneath the show archive on YouTube. Allegedly.
Now, 4 or 5 plates on my full plate armor on my paladin.
I'm confined to wearing the same armor as Arasteel on my warrior at the moment as well, since the alleged... Well, I think it makes more sense for a warrior, because the whole warrior thing is a berserker, and they're a little bit less concerned about the whole armor thing.
Yeah. You are impossible to get a hold of.
It's not exactly a difficult rail shooter.
But we're
Would you
awful
call
at
for that?
Plays a shell game. Same. You die. They saved me. The tank marked me.
This is how story trials are supposed to be. It's always like that. Yeah. You aren't allowed to do things in a coherent fashion. That would just be silly.
Yeah, he's yeah.
Oh my.
I don't remember watching that, but I was doing it as a DPS. I went on my dancer. I think I think I got 5,000 points. Is that perfect? Victory! Er Oh dear.
I have never even attempted it. I don't even know what you're supposed to do. What do they just look at you and they're like, "You what? Are you even trying?" Not the most ringing endorsement I've ever heard. Really have to. I see. What's rhombus of Mm, I haven't really done very much this week either. Um,
Oh.
well, this week has been pretty much divided between FGO and Final Fantasy 14, which is the current division of time expenditure for the moment. Neurofest is going, and I have a great difficulty mustering up the motivation to actually do it because, well, it is just a monumental grind, and
Mm-hmm.
I just find it very, very frustrating because it's an event that is designed predominantly for people who have infinity time to play mobile games, because the challenge quests are very tough, and logically what you want to do is be tackling them on the days that they come out, and 2 of them come out every day and they're both very difficult. You might spend an hour or 2 just nutting them out. So it's a huge amount of time investment, and you want to do them as they come out because you might need your command seals. I, on the other hand, just don't have the time for that. I don't want FGO to be the only game I ever play. So I just can't sort of commit that humongous amount of time to it. So I'm just ditching most of them. Probably when we get to the last few days and I'm doing cleanup, I'll just tackle all of the ones that I think are, readily doable because by coincidence I have a good composition for that particular challenge or whatever. But generally speaking, I think I'm just going to focus on clearing the shop and clearing and getting lots of lottery boxes the way I would if it were any other event, rather than doing the challenge quests. And it hurts. It hurts not doing the challenge quests because you really want those rare materials and those summoning tickets and whatnot, especially with major banners coming up in the back half of the year. But it's just too much work for too little reward. At any rate, so that's just going to chug along in the background.
Yeah, is Neurofest still a horrible slog, or is there actually better writing this time around?
Well, it's not a story event. It's an items grinding event.
So yes, it's a slog.
Yeah, well, they do this twice a year. They do it once Neurofest. Well, it's Guildfest this year. Battle in New York is its formal name. But the event is about grinding. They do one for Christmas, which usually has a story of some kind attached to it, and they do one, which is the Neurofest one, which is like, it doesn't care about story. It's just, the objective is gameplay. That's why they spend all this time coming up with ridiculously difficult challenge quests for you to do, and they are ridiculously difficult in a lot of cases. Some of the historical ones are so close to impossible that most of the player base can't do them.
Oof.
But yeah, that's the purpose, though, right? This is the one event each year that is designed to be redonkulously difficult. All of the other ones are designed to be clearable for the average player.
Mm-hmm.
The quests in Neurofest aren't. And I guess the main reason I feel bad about it is sort of like a form of sunk cost fallacy, in that I've invested so much time and effort in FGO that it feels like I'm doing something bad to just not participate in a major aspect of a major event each year.
Yep.
But that's sort of like, the type of irrational thinking that gacha games are built to induce. You know what I mean? It's not actually a productive thought circuit. It's just me being a spaz because I play FGO too much. So yeah, I'm trying to put it out of my mind and put it on the back burner. So the main thing that well, the drops get better towards the end of the event. So I'm not doing shop farming right now on it. But like most Neurofests, it's divided into 3 phases, and round 1, round 2, round 3 type of structure, and each one will have a bunch of quests which farm shop currency, and one quest which has got a really high lotto ticket drop rate. We're currently in round 1. I don't have a very good composition for it. I have devised a 3-turn composition for it, but it's very, very sloppy. It doesn't work together very well. Most of the good compositions for round 1 this year are Skadi system combinations involving either Dante's or Zerkalot. And I don't have Dante's, and I've got an NP1 Zerkalot. And Zerkalot really needs to be about NP3-ish before it's a reliable double Skadi system servant for the DPS. So I'm not equipped to use that strategy. So I'm using a really messy, slow strategy, but it's just for the purposes of making sure my AP and time doesn't go to waste during the early rounds. I think that my strongest round will probably be second round, because even though I keep miserably failing to get my Jean Summer to NP2, at NP1 she should still be good enough to do 3-turn farming, provided that I use Plug Suit and Tamamo to boost to NP regen. So I think probably round 2 will be the strongest. Round 3 is going to be a bit rough. I'll have to think about how I'm going to do that. It's probably going to be another sloppy, only about 80% successful 3-turn strat, much like round 1. But I'm not going to go ham on it this time. I've gone ham on it before. Like I think I've managed to get sort of like 90 lotto boxes in the past when I've gone really ham on it, but I just don't have the energy for that. And I'm really enjoying playing Final Fantasy 14 again. Like it's like coming home sort of thing. Coming home and then constantly walking into walls because you expected a doorway to be there when you haven't been to the house for a while. That type of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've not been very focused in my play, and it's going to come back to bite me because I'm going on holiday, presuming that the lockdown does end on Tuesday the way we've been promised. I will be going to visit my parents and I won't be able to play Final Fantasy while I'm at my parents' house, so I'm getting my playtime in now, but I expect that by the time I come back from holiday, Ari will have gotten bored with the game and will never play it again, since that appears to be the way he plays video games. And if I give him a 3-week stretch, that's more than enough for him to get bored of practically any game. So I've not been... My logic was always that, I don't really have the motivation to get very far ahead in this game because other people aren't playing with me, but everybody will be ahead of me by the time I get back. So that's not
In
really
theory.
not really a reasonable way of thinking. But yeah. So I haven't been very focused. I've sort of been gradually leveling several classes. So I've gradually been leveling White Mage, it's at 47 now, gradually been leveling my Dark Knight, which is at level 50 now, which is good because it's at level 50, it's now my lowest level tank. So I can scrap all of the tank gear that I've got that's from A Realm Reborn, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Which has freed up a bunch of bag space. And I've been sort of gradually leveling my my Red Mage, which is at 69 now, and putting a little bit of work in my Warrior, which is now at 63. So I'm leveling a gajillion different things and making pretty dubious progress at all of them because I'm splitting my attention so many different ways. But I left myself a real inventory management nightmare when I stopped playing.
Yeah.
And it's very hard for me to get the motivation to clean it all out. So my Chocobo saddlebags are stuffed to the gills with useless gear I'm never going to use, and so are my retainers. And there's a bunch of materia in there I think that is no longer in the game, and now they're vendor trash, and I have to sift through and figure out which ones I'm going to sell and that sort of thing. It's kind of a mess, so I've just been hiding from my problems and doing dungeons and wandering around and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. I've got the same issue with my my inventory, and I'm just pretending it's not there right now.
Yeah, I attempted to use the system whereby you can use AI companions to do dungeons rather than waiting for a queue,
Oh yeah, how's that?
and they're retards.
Damn it.
Absolute retards. And I don't really see how it could be otherwise, to be totally honest.
Mm-hmm.
I did make it through Aurum Vale as a tank, but I've been attempting to mail Darkhold as a healer, and it's quite difficult because they don't seem to do target swapping very well, and if you have to heal, and you will because the tank is dumb, you'll attract aggro from ads, and no one will help you. Or at least that seems to be the case for me. So yeah, it's been that a lot of the more tricksy things have been programmed well. Like the tank AI tank will know how to do things like grab the boss and position them in a particular place, which makes them vulnerable. Like in the first boss of Zamail Darkhold, the tank knows to drag the boss into the purple stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's all been coded in. The problem is that the basics of situational awareness don't exist for bots. So an ad that's just running amok and murdering the healer, they are going to react very, very slowly to, if at all.
Yeah. Incidentally, how's the character selection?
Well, that depends on your RNG. If you've recruited good characters and trained them up, then, well, you'll have good characters. Unfortunately, I had originally done it back when I was playing before in a very reckless and inconsistent way. So now my two best DPS are both archers,
Oh no.
so which is not great. But I've got to make the best of what I've got and gradually train up some others while I'm at it. But yeah, the easiest way to train them up is to basically, when you log off, just set the Facebook game part of it going and send them off to get EXP. But
Yeah. When do you unlock that system, by the way? Huh?
I think it's just unlocked by getting to the top rank of your grand company.
Okay.
Which, so everybody who played A Realm Reborn should pretty much have it.
Yeah, I'll have to look into it.
But yeah, they're dumb. But it looks like it will work really well for powering through those early levels when the dungeons just aren't really that difficult. Like everything up to Brayflocks, I think would be a doddle. So
Yeah.
if you want to, you'll be able to do the job of getting all of your classes to like 35-ish pretty much effortlessly if you want to use the system. And it will be faster than waiting for queues, most likely, because most of those classes are going to be DPS, aren't they? So yeah, it's an interesting system, but I think that the limitations are just more or less what you expect them to be. That the AI can't do what a computer can do, or can't do as a computer what a player can do as a thinking person. When you are fortunate enough to get thinking people in your group.
Yeah, that's rare enough on its own.
When you are fortunate enough to get thinking people in your group, when we are not already in Netflix roulette after dark phase.
Yeah, that group was they were special.
Very special. Yeah, we did a Netflix roulette, which is main scenario roulette in Praetorium. It was late at night for me. I don't know what time it was for Aristeel.
It was almost time to go to work in the morning o'clock.
Oh dear.
Right, yeah. There's some interesting people around that time of the day because most of the people that are still playing are either off their head on lack of sleep or off their head on other substances. And you tend to get curious results.
I never thought we would ever see the words "you don't pay my sub" used in real time in a group we were in.
Yeah, you get a lot of that, but yeah, it's ridiculous. But the rewards are hefty, so people still do them. There's main scenario roulette's about 600 tomestones usually, and about a level worth of EXP. So the incentives are great. But yeah, so when I left off playing, I had just finished the main scenario quest of Stormblood, and Ari and Fern are both closing in on probably the back half of Stormblood at this point.
Yeah.
So by the time I'm ready to go on holiday, they will have caught up to me. And then I will be left behind and I will never catch up because I don't have enough time to do so. So them's the breaks. I guess that's just how it be. I will just have to demand that they do dungeons with me as all. But yeah. I don't think I've got a huge amount extra to talk about on it. Because I guess none of the dungeons that I've been doing are new to me, so there's not any point in me reviewing them. I'll leave that to Ari to talk about if there was anything he thought was interesting. But yeah. I don't think I really did anything much other than that, because, well, I mean, everybody's in the everybody in New Zealand is sort of in the despair phase of being under lockdown for no reason.
Yeah.
Like we had our first Delta strain COVID death in the country, or at least that's what they're saying it was, but the person who died of it was in their 90s. So they would probably be taken out by a stiff breeze as it was. It's not an indicator that the sky is falling when somebody who's in their mid-90s dies.
Yeah. It's kind of what happens.
Yeah. But if you get to your mid-80s, you've had your fair innings. Once you're in the 90s, you're in extra time. So
Yeah.
But yeah, the promise has been that the lockdown will lift on Tuesday midnight.
Yeah, but
So
we've heard that before.
yeah, I have heard that before, not once but many times. And then all it will take is for one case of the sniffles to be found in Christchurch, and the entirety of South Island will be level 4 again.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only one upside to lockdown, and that's that there's no traffic on the road, which makes the drive to work really relaxing instead of normal morning rush hour. But it's a small consolation, to be honest, and I can't get takeout under those conditions, and I need my takeout. But yeah, so I will be doing one more week of time in Christchurch, and then next week on Tuesday or Monday. Which day was it? Monday, I believe. On Monday, the next Monday, I will be heading up north to see my family, and I'll be staying there for about a week-ish. And so in that time, I will basically be doing monster genetic engineering. I think is the likely expenditure of my time. I wish that either Fern or Ari would play some of that game, because it's really built for co-op, to be quite honest.
I'd love
That's
to,
what it's
but
for.
Okay, I tell you what. You pester me about it for about 5 more years, and maybe it'll stick after I start and stop about 4 times. But I can't do both at once.
yeah, I
Well,
just
I mean,
need time.
it's only for co-op with one other person, so I don't care which of you does it. Somebody do it. Like, I mean, you can see from the ground up that the thing was built for co-op,
Oh yeah,
because basically everything is designed around there being two players, one of which throughout the story is an NPC, but the NPC behaves like a drooling retard, and you spend a lot of your time trying to save it. And the difficulties of the battles are way lower than they really ought to be, simply because the balance is taking into account the fact that you've got an NPC retard. But all the real cool fights and cool challenges, they all come from having a real person at your side with their own custom built team of monsters to tackle the really tough fights. And they've introduced a lot of tough fights, like the the sort of updates, the scheduled updates over time have now introduced all of the deviants of the Fated Four, which are like some of the toughest fights in the game now.
they will eat
So
your
you
face, even the
so you've
elephant.
got your Astalos and your Glavinus and your new Gammoth and your Solcia Mizitsune,
Bubble snack.
and they are really from the only one that I've really looked at the reviews on is Solcia Mizitsune, since I'm a fan of the monster and I'm currently building a regular Mizitsune, and I was like, oh no, am I doing something wrong, wasting my time building a regular Mizitsune? Although that's irrational thinking, because you can't fight Solcia Mizitsune and earn the right to have that monster unless you've already got a really strong team, and Mizitsune is going to be a part of my team. But it's a lot of these monsters. Some of them are really, really powerful. Like they've got moves that really will alter the meta around them. But Solcia Mizitsune has some really interesting and cool abilities, and is an unbelievably strong water monster speed type platform. Considering the water element is pretty lacking, like there's only Mizitsune and Ludroth, and that's about it. I don't respect Ketchawacha. The
Proboscis.
addition of Solcia Mizitsune has sort of added a bunch of interesting new skills, but the power level is just not quite where some of the other elements are, especially with some really powerful monsters in the mix like Rajang and that. But it's by far the most powerful raw stat platform for building a water monster. But if you were to do that, you'd be swapping out a lot of its skills, because Solcia Mizitsune, being what it is sort of hedging its bets between water and fire. So yeah, it's not exactly optimal for one thing. So yeah, I'm actually looking forward to spending some more time with that game. I would rather be playing Final Fantasy with you guys, but unfortunately I don't have a gaming laptop. So I contemplated buying one, but it never seems to be a good value proposition, because I would really just be using it once in a while.
Yeah,
And they expensive, yo.
them
Yeah,
them is expensive.
Yeah, like that's the primary reason why I was interested in the Steam Deck thing, because it seems like a great compact travel computer. I'd be totally cool with using it for that. Like, I have zero interest in it as a handheld device. But I don't even have any interest in the Switch as a handheld device, but as a mobile gaming device along the lines of I can take it to another location and play sitting down there, as opposed to actually playing on the go. That I don't have time. When I'm on the go, I'm either driving my car or I'm working. I don't have time to play video games. And if I do, it will be to use up my AP on FGO. So, yeah, but the upshot of all of it is I don't have a portable gaming device for that, and it did cross my mind, the PS4 thing, but frankly I don't know how to set up Final Fantasy on PS4, and if I did, I don't know, do I have to buy the whole thing again? I don't really like the idea.
Yes, you
Yeah,
do.
you
got
do.
Different
It seems like it
license.
would be an easy win for them to just say no, we'll give you cross-platform.
Yeah, you can play cross-platform as long as you're not on Xbox, but yeah, if you still need to buy it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't really
different.
want to. I've already spent a lot of money on this game. I don't want to spend a lot of money again. How much free stuff is there? Like, isn't part of the game free?
Yeah, up to the end of Heavenswood. All of
Right,
that
maybe
is free.
Maybe I could level low-level characters.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I also don't really want to lug my entire delicate PS4 halfway across the country again. I did it once before, but it was kind of messy and heavy. So the whole point of having the Switch is that it doesn't weigh 1,000,000 tons like my rest of my gaming rig does.
Yeah.
But
The thing I remember about you being at your parents' house was the Old Republic.
oh, that was on the old PC. My goodness, I had to coax that. I had to coax it to work, and boy, the latency was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
My goodness. Yeah, parent computers are always like that when they are working and not filled with Bonsai Buddy. But yeah, I don't think my parents have ever downloaded Bonsai Buddy. I don't think they've ever done that.
Actually, I don't think that's really a thing anymore.
I think my brother's solution to that, actually, because he lived with my parents for a lot longer than I did, because he dropped out of university the first time when he found he couldn't hack it, and he wasn't really sure what he wanted to do. So he spent a lot of time living with my parents, and his solution to that issue of parents putting things on the computer which kill the computer is that he worked out that the only things that my parents really wanted the computer for was browsing the internet and sending emails. So what he did is he just installed a distro of Linux on there instead, because none of that stupid crap's compatible with Linux.
Yeah.
But they can still browse and use email just fine.
That's one way to do it, yeah.
But I don't know up from down on Linux, but nor do my parents. And if you don't understand it, you can't harm it very easily. So yeah, it was that solution anyway. But yeah, so I'll be probably spending some time. Probably spend a bit of time. The first part of my time will be the end of Neurofest, so I'll be doing cleanup there, and then I will be manipulating the genes of my monsters and building my team. I don't know what I'm going to do. The sort of minimum bar you want is 3 really high tier monsters for general purposes, because, well, you can only take 3 with you into co-op. So you of course you're going to want a full-time team of 6 for when you're doing solo stuff, but you want 3 good ones to bring with you, and so you're going to want to have you're going to want to raise a couple of each type. So I haven't decided what ones I'm going to do yet. Mizutsune, of course, is my first technical. I'm thinking Bagel Goose and Nergigante for power. I think Bagel Goose is power. And Nergigante I'm thinking for power because he's just a really strong, flexible platform for raw physical bruisers. He's compatible with a bunch of different stuff and has really good across-the-board base stats, and he's also one of the fastest monsters in the game, by coincidence. Nobody's really sure why, since he's not a speed monster, I don't think. Pretty sure he's a power monster, but he's also got really great speed stats, so a heavy hitter who always goes first is great. But I haven't really decided what I'm going to do with the others. There's lots of lots of good deviants floating about, but as I said, that's something that is not inaccessible, but very much harder for you to access unless you already have a built team or a co-op partner. Like if you've got a really, really built team and you can just carry an AI companion, you've got a huge amount of items in stock to keep them in the fight, then by all means you can do that. But yeah, it's without a co-op partner, it's a lot harder. But yeah, so I'm going to be working on some monsties. I want Bagel Goose to work for me, just for once. I want him to be on my side. I don't want him to be an invader. But yeah, I'll have to think about what else. Nagakuga's served me really, really well, and his stealth utility is really good for raiding nests with a minimum of fuss. So maybe Nagakuga is another option that I'll pursue for speed. But yeah, I'll have to think about it. I don't think I've got much else to talk about.
All right.
Alrighty. My week is going to be very much in the vein of Final Fantasy XIV. Then
Do it.
we jump into that. So this week started with becoming Fish a Cat. It's just fishing. Because these guys thought it would be a wonderful idea to tell me fishing happened. And so there was fish.
It's even got like in-game fishing raids where you get a bunch of people together and you all go on a boat and then you go out to do ocean fishing.
Yeah. So I grinded up my fishing to over level 50 in a day. And I had to force myself to stop, otherwise I would just keep fishing. I'm currently fishing right now. I'm halfway through level 56. Some of the fish, it's hard to tell what's a good fish and what's not. Because, it depends on how usable the fish is. It depends on how rare that fish is, if it is usable. It depends on the pain in the butt it is to fish. But you can do things like you can cast your line out, you can catch a fish, and when the fish bites it, you have to decide what type of reel in the line you want to use. And if it's a high quality of a small fish, you can throw that fish back out and use that fish as bait to go try and fish a bigger fish. And then sometimes if you get a high quality fish off of that fish, you can then double mooch and fish off of the fish that you caught with the first fish.
Fish.
It's a very involved system. I've been having a lot of fun with it, but it's caused a slight problem. I don't have the inventory space for this crap. My entire third bag is dedicated to being a tackle box right now.
Right.
Because you have to pick the bait you want in the area you want with the right weather at the right time of day.
Yep.
Currently, I'm fishing at a fairly easy location because I'm trying to talk and do the show at the same time. So I'm using red balloons in the skies up in the Heavensward area. I've been having fun with the fishing. Although I don't know why I have fun with fishing in video games.
Mm-mm.
It's just a thing. So I'm just sitting here fishing.
Fishing.
Just fishing. All right, where did I leave off last week when I was detailing my expedition through Final Fantasy XIV?
You were about halfway through Heavenswood, if I recall.
Was I halfway through or had I finished it?
No, you hadn't finished it.
Okay. Was I in the post main scenario?
That I can't remember.
Vol, did we talk about the video we watched and what it said about the last boss?
I don't remember that.
Okay, we'll start from there. So, I got to the end of Heavensward and Vol got on. And we were doing the reactor core dungeon. So we watched a certain bad guy get eaten and killed his waifu and had white aura sight on hand and sucked her up and stabbed her in the white aura sight. And the other one got omnommed, who's been a pain in the butt since A Realm Reborn. And then we're all getting set up to go fight the Knights of the Round. And we're like, oh boy, there's a whole bunch going on in this fight. I guess we better look at the video. And the video starts off all serious. Oh man, there's so much going on in this fight. You gotta really pay attention here. It's like good King Mogomog on steroids. And then the video just cuts to black. He goes, "Nah, I'm just kidding. Here's a video of me standing in literally every single mechanic trying to die and failing."
Yeah, they nerfed it a bit hard. I don't think it's a function of the way a lot of people are overgeared either, because I don't recall I've ever been in a group that failed that. It just seems to be a really undertuned story fight, but really clearly decided that was a mistake, I have to say, because the final story fight in Stormblood is not like that. It's not like that at all.
Well,
You'll see.
even the final story fight of the Dragonsong War is a huge step up from what you're used to in story difficulty.
I've been in groups that have wiped on that many times.
Were you with me for Nidhogg?
Yes. We did wipe one time, I think, because something went wrong with the Akmorn, I think.
Yeah, we didn't stack for it.
Yeah, we didn't see it coming, and not enough people stacked, and you need everybody stacked or everything will fall apart.
Yeah. So we did the Dragonsong War stuff after that. I did most of the stuff for that on my own until we got to just before Nidhogg, I want to say. Thereabouts. So did you do the anti-tower with me?
Yes. Yes, I did. That's the one that has
The creepy doll.
dolls?
Yeah, the creepy doll.
I did do that.
And so we did the creepy doll. I don't remember anything about the anti-tower. It just didn't stick out in my brain at all, other than the creepy dolls. And then we did Nidhogg. And Nidhogg was a pretty fun fight, although the queue took forever for some reason. We were both queued as tanks.
Huh.
I have no idea why. But
I think it's probably the time of day. Probably just a time of day thing.
What's a starflower? Ooh, that's cool. I wonder if it sells. But yeah. So we did that, and then I continued on chewing through Stormblood. And I don't think you've done any Stormblood content with me yet. So I seem to.
I don't think so, no, because you're always doing it while I'm at work, so.
Yeah. I've been doing it in the evenings a bit. So, can I only catch these in the morning?
Yeah.
Oh, that's why.
Some of them you can only get during certain weather events as well.
Yeah, I know. I had never seen this one. This has been my go-to fishing spot for a while, and I just guess I never came out here in the morning.
Something new.
But yeah. So Siren Song C, not a whole lot interesting here, other than when I was doing it. There's a mini boss before the last boss, the Siren. You're on a boat. The boat wrecks, and you get off the boat, and you have to go run through the island to kill the Siren that boat wrecked you before you can continue on to Super Japan.
Yes.
And the mini boss before the last boss has a spell you absolutely have to interrupt, or bad things can happen real easy.
Yes.
And one of our DPS was AFK. And me and the other guy both waste our interrupt on a Dark 3 cast or something irrelevant. And bad things happened. We survived, but it was a near thing. Then we went to go kill last boss. So not a whole lot in Siren Song C. The next dungeon
I think the last boss has an interesting mechanic, though.
Does it? I don't remember it.
That's the one where you've got to position yourself relative to the other things going on, like the AoE.
Oh, right.
Because it's going to force you to march forward or whatever.
Or backwards, yeah.
It'll make you go forwards or back and start walking.
So that's you've got to think about this in terms of this is an introductory dungeon for the expansion. But the reason why I think those mechanics are valuable is that it's there are two tiers of play in MMO dungeons. Number one is people who have got to the point where they can react to all the things that happen, and the other one is the people who have got to the point where they're thinking about what's going to happen next and where they will be and what they will be doing when that happens. And that mechanic is very good for introducing that type of thinking, because you need to think about what's going to happen next, not how to react to what's happening now.
Yeah. So yeah. It was an okay dungeon. I didn't. It just kind of went in my brain as another dungeon.
Yeah,
But
it kind of does that.
so it's just not a whole lot of it sticks out as memorable, other than the setting of being on the boat and crashing on the island. The next dungeon is interesting, and that it's. I've been calling it the Sloot Dungeon because it seems impossible for me to say. She Sui of the Violet Tide. See, I keep wanting to say violet, like the color.
Purple.
So it's the Sloot Dungeon where you get the swimsuit. So I ran this place 4 times, twice as a paladin and twice as a dancer to get the full swimsuit.
I see.
And this dungeon has a couple cool bosses. The first boss isn't particularly notable. He doesn't do anything that's really interesting. Kill the ad before it spawns goop, and knock his legs out from under him when he rears up to knock him on his back. And that's about it. It's pretty much tank and spank. And then the second boss, however, is a clown show with every single group I went to that dungeon with.
This is your opportunity to see who actually looked at what was going to be involved in the fight beforehand.
Who read the wiki page or watched the video? The answer is you and nobody else every single time.
Oh joy.
Yeah.
One of those.
Because the way this boss works, it has a circular AoE that it does that will knock you back and almost kill you outright. And right before she does it, she has a very long cast of a ability called Seduce that is apparently strong enough to work even on the girls. So to counter this, you have to kill your libido by making yourself old, by running to one of 4 boxes around the arena. Each player is allowed to take 1 box.
So actually, it's more about the story.
Yeah, I know. The box sealed the time and leaving the place. Yeah.
Mm.
But I mean, the logic that you have related to the listener is the logic that any normal person will come to.
So yeah, you have to turn yourself old during Seduce to not be walking entranced by her right when she does her big kick move.
Oh
And
my.
And what you wind up with is you're old, you're the tank, and the rest of the group is running around trying to still DPS the boss. And you're just not saying anything in chat because you know the clown show's about to get really funny. And sure enough, they all get hit by Seduce, and they all get kicked across the room.
Horrible, horrible things happen.
That's just how it be.
So there's that, and then there's she has a fire mechanic that DPS have forgotten is in this game. If you're a DPS in this fight, if you're targeted by the fire, after the fire explodes once, keep running.
Yeah, I got killed by that once because I saw the fire was coming and I'm like, well, I ran out of the first couple. Maybe I've got time for a cast.
Nope.
No.
You don't have time for a cast.
Those are always famous last words.
It's an
there's never been a time where I have said, maybe I've got time for just one more, and it hasn't bitten me in the backside.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one of those things you do in the moment. You're like, I'm gonna go for it, and then you're dead.
You just get squished.
So
It said nobody said anything to me when I died. Although the res that I got was one of those ones that's got a really condescending message macro to it. But nobody actually said anything in chat because they all then got hit by the Seduce, and I was the only one who never got hit by the Seduce. So
yeah. So it's a fun dungeon. The outfit you get is super Sloot swimwear. You saw me running around in it in front of Fern. And mostly I ran. It's an optional dungeon. It's not part of the story. And I did it just for the memes because Vol pointed the outfit out to me before I got to it.
I have to try and get the dude equivalent of it, and hopefully it's something equally impractical.
It is.
Excellent.
So yeah, you just got to do a really short quest, single quest, to unlock the dungeon. It's at the bottom of the Ruby Sea. But yeah, there's that one, and then there's the last boss of that dungeon that is not a whole lot going on there. It's kind of a snooze fight. I don't like it. It takes forever, and there just ain't a whole lot going on because damage is so high these days.
Yeah, that fight was actually quite a challenge when everybody was level appropriate and you didn't have people in the group who were like way capped out.
Yeah, so it's
A lot of the
you
fights are like that in the Stormblood dungeons, is that they're way more interesting when things don't just fall over.
yeah.
That's true throughout MMOs across time. I mean, I think that the most standing out example of that is probably Ultimate Weapon. Ultimate Weapon was never hard because it was a story. It was a story quest. It was never really challenging per se. However, there were actually mechanics and you actually had to do stuff before. Now, the most common thing to happen is that everybody skips all of Ultima's phases because he just melts.
Yeah, the hard part is staying awake.
Yeah.
That
So
said, I remember once I hit level 70, I think it was. I think I was level 70. Myself and some guys from my free company, we went back and tried to fight Nail Daestanis, who's the final boss of Binding Coil of Bahamut, and we got schooled. It was not pretty.
You got absolutely squished.
So yeah, some fights they don't get much easier.
so yeah, we had fun doing that. And then the next dungeon was what was it? It was Barnum's Metal. That's the last dungeon I've done. Barnum's Metal is a weird dungeon. A really weird dungeon. It's in a semi-open fieldish area with
It's
a
sort of
bunch of
canyon,
animals.
really, isn't it?
Yeah, you're
It's
like
like
in a
a field
gorge
that
in a
goes
field.
into a canyon and then it goes into sort of underground.
Yeah. So first is the parade of animals as your first boss. You fight like a woolly mammoth or something, and he's surrounded by sheep and tigers and all kinds of and other like rhino-looking things. And occasionally he'll blow his trumpet,
Dude.
and all the animals will do an AOE of a different type depending on which ones get activated, and they'll all come running into the arena to do stuff. And you can't target them; you just got to kind of deal with them and just get out of the way. So he's kind of a gimme boss, but he's really funny because he's a big animal surrounded by other animals. And the second boss is the most interesting part of the dungeon because you get to figure out who's a fat baddie.
Yeah, because it's basically the whole thing is a fat baddie check. There's no boss. There's just fat baddie check.
Yeah, so you the entire second boss, there's nothing to attack. You do no damage. It's just, can you survive all these AoEs? And it's not survive them. It's if you get hit by any of them, you're locked out for that phase of the fight. And you got to do 3 ridiculously complicated patterns of increasing silliness in the AoE. And you have to not get hit. And if everybody gets locked out, you got to restart the fight.
Oh, no.
So somebody has to. So unless your entire party is made up of fat baddies, it's probably fine. But you have to not die, or you have to not get hit during each of his phases. At least somebody does every single time. So that was interesting. The last boss is a bird.
Bird.
The bird fight was actually pretty tough back when it was current content.
So the biggest thing with the bird, I played a dancer in this one too. I did a DPS for this one, and I had no problems with the bird fight. And part of that is because I'm a dancer. I'm a lot more mobile than most people.
Mm-hmm.
So getting around and still doing DPS while dodging the AoEs ain't that big a deal for me. But I could see how if you brought like 2 black mages or something, that fight would be a right pain in the butt. Because stuff is shooting all the time. And you gotta be constantly moving against all these line AoEs that are everywhere and dodging the birds that are swooping the platform and picking up the ads and stuff. But otherwise, just a don't stand in the yuck boss when you boil it right down to it. So, not my favorite part of the dungeon, but it is what it be. And then Trials, I've only done Susano for Stormblood.
He is a fun.
Susano's cool. It's just cool. I like it. I think it's got all of the sort of the pomp and flash that you want from a story trial fight. It's much better than the next one. Lakshmi's not nearly as fun.
There is something special about it where he disappears off the arena during the phase 1 to 2 transition, and he just
tank has the
tank has to hold off this stonking great massive sword. It's great. You don't see that very often.
The tank has the button mash to push it back too.
Oh yeah, the tank is going to ruin their keyboard, but it's still a great bit of content.
Yeah, so you have that going on while the DPS destroys the sword. Presumably your time limit on that is the endurance of your tank's thumb?
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure. I think that there might be a hard limit on it, but you're basically like, it gets harder to push it back the longer you're doing it. Like, if you're better at button mashing, you would be able to defer it longer, but you're still in a situation where it's going to eventually become impossible to repel it. Like, you won't be able to keep pushing it up indefinitely.
Yeah. Oh no, I hit the fishing cap for this area.
No more fish for you.
So, not in this area. I gotta go to another one. So there's an
I've just now successfully completed Zamel Darkhold using the fat Betty NPC partners. It was a trial and it took a very long time, but I got there in the end.
And I wasn't paying attention to Palace of the Dead and got killed on floor 7. And then watched somebody fly away on a magic sofa, so that's a thing.
Yeah, the mounts in this game get really out there.
Yeah. Like, there's not a whole lot of just straight up palette swap mounts. There's a few, but yeah, most of the mounts are actually unique, but you got to earn them.
Yeah. So one of the things I was thinking about was why I didn't stick with the game before, and I think I found out why. Because I've been able to power through the main story and just keep going now. But before I had a lot of trouble with it, and I think a lot of trouble before was just the way A Realm Reborn is structured. Because it's how do I best describe? Oh, here we go. Go punch a primal in the face. Pray, return to the waking sands. Go punch a primal in the face. Pray, let us return to the waking sands. Go punch a primal in the face. Hey, look, we're at the Rising Stones now.
No, we're not. We're at the Waking Sands again.
And then we go back to the Waking Sands.
Yeah.
And now that we actually have a more dynamic narrative going on here with characters and interactions across lands and stuff happening besides Pray, return to the Waking Sands.
Yeah, it gets a lot better. I think they actually trimmed out a lot of the running back to the Waking Sands as well.
They mostly trimmed out fetch quests, so you actually just keep running back to the Waking Sands in quick succession now.
Yoshi P,
all the
we need to have words. There's a lot of important story stuff that happens there. So.
Well, they were basically just treading water while they got the next major chapter released, and you can see the massive change in approach that they took when you compare Heavensward to A Realm Reborn. A Realm Reborn was basically, the whole thing was a rearguard action. Like, they already were on the retreat because things were terrible in 1.0, and they had to basically tie up all of those loose ends, rebuild all of the damaged game systems into things that worked, try and meet the requirements that players had to actually want to play the game. And so there were things like, the most obvious example is job classes, because the classic ones, I mean, not the classic ones, the original ones like Thaumaturge, Conjurer, Arcanist, Gladiator, Marauder, those guys, they were intended to be the classes for Final Fantasy XIV. That's what was supposed to be the classes, and then they were, for some reason, the original development team was surprised to find when people started the game that they were upset they couldn't play Final Fantasy as classic Final Fantasy classes.
Yeah, you got the discount versions instead.
Yeah, you just got these crappy made-up ones that have no history and no resonance with anyone because they just don't have any any previous context to refer to. So all of that stuff is in the game, and it'll probably remain in the game indefinitely. But they don't use it anymore. Like there was a sort of a bridging scenario where Thief was in the game, which is used for. I think it's only used for Ninja. I don't think it's used for anything else.
Yes, it is.
And it's honestly only used for Ninja because of the unique circumstances in which it came out, which was it came out before Heavensward, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
They released it early, and so they have this sort of interesting scenario where you have this sort of like Western high fantasy ninja-esque character of the rogue, who he's operating as a rogue, and they've got their own stories as a rogue filled with British slang that you can't understand, and the ninja appears as sort of like a natural storyline progression wherein, you know, as a rogue, as a thief, you sort of hit the edge of what you're capable of in terms of professional growth, and then you encounter the concept of the ninja, which has come from Doma, and you progress from there. So that was the last case, though, where they bothered with that kind of thing. After that, it was all, you know, we'll just leap into it at whatever level we deem appropriate.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it's got its strengths, but it also has its weaknesses. Like, I haven't tried Dancer, but I feel Gunbreaker, for instance, is sort of like drops into the middle of nowhere. Like, what is it? What is a Gunbreaker? What is the place of the Gunbreaker in this world? And I mean, you get a blurb of lore about it when you start the class from the guy who's going to be your Gunbreaker mentor, and even his companion sort of groans when he starts to go on about the history of Gunbreaker. He's like, "Oh, great, here we go, another history lesson," and that sort of kind of tongue in cheek, because yes, they are actually just airdropping this class into the game at a high level, and it doesn't really have a lot of resonance because of that.
Yeah,
It's not part of the game.
At least with Machinist, and I am assuming Astrologian is the same, it ties in very closely to the Heavensward storyline.
Yeah, that's true, but you also start at level 30, which is when most of the job classes start.
Yeah,
and
so it's not a huge catch-up.
Yeah, you've got some time to get sort of baked into the world and whatnot, whereas, like I said, you just sort of get airdropped in as a Gunbreaker, and while it's got some cool thematic elements, it still doesn't quite feel like it belongs in the same way.
Yeah, you're still a grumpy edgelord with a silly weapon.
I mean, the Red Mage gets away with it, I feel, because number one, Red Mage is a very well-established classic class, and number two, Red Mages just try to predominantly use black magic and white magic, and that's their thing. And black mage and white mage are already in the game, so Red Mage is sort of a natural progression. And Samurai sort of gets away with it again because Samurai is a well-established class from Final Fantasy, and also because the heavy thematic influence from the expansion in which it was brought in.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Because it's essentially an ethnically themed class, people already have something to reach for. Like, people watched samurai movies, or at least I presume people have watched samurai movies other than the Hollywood Last Samurai.
Yeah, don't watch that; it's awful.
So there's some sort of like touchstone there. Gunbreaker lacks that, in my opinion. So it feels kind of weird and out of place, and that's sort of like that lack of developing into the place in the world that the job classes have as a result of being built out of these previous classes that have been basically discontinued. Like that it still does play to a thematic advantage, but in terms of game mechanics, it is sort of like this weird derelict hangover from a bygone era where everything was terrible and we just all want to forget about it. And Heavensward was sort of like their first opportunity to start pulling away from that history. So they had a lot more freedom to do everything differently. But to actually start on that project required a lot of groundwork, and returning to the Waking Sands is basically what you do while you're developing how will this game look going forward into 3.0 and beyond.
But yeah, that still makes Prey Return to the Waking Sands. We must discuss how to get the next primal really rubbing them, start to rub after a while. and feel like
I-
you're not going anywhere.
I suppose the thing that I don't understand is, like, it seems like there's at least some of that stuff you could just do a cataclysm and do away with it in some way. I don't know. It seems they do bake it a little bit into the story, but it seems a bit overwrought in some ways. But I think that it might just remain there. I don't know if I want it to go away. Like, it is an obstacle for a lot of people, but getting through that obstacle, that sort of becomes a shared experience of rite of passage for people coming into the game now. And it's, if you have friends playing it, you can burn through it pretty quickly once you're done returning to the Waiting Sands. If you have a friend playing with you who has a passenger mount, even better, because they can fly.
Yeah. So I came back into the game right at Shiva, and that's when they started to set up for Heavensward. And Heavensward's story was continuous the whole way through and really easy to munch through.
Yeah.
By comparison. And Heavensward also, for the most part, most of the major story beats and plot points appear, while they may set up for stuff later, they tell a complete self-contained story for Heavensward.
Yeah, they have really mastered the art of leaving dangling plot threads and even to some extent cliffhangers, while also not resolving the extant plot threads in a unsatisfying way. Like, things that you want to know what happened and why, you will get those answers in the end, but they haven't. They still managed to, like, leave out a few lines to catch fish later, so to speak.
Yeah, like the dragon MacGuffins.
The Dragon Balls.
The
Dragon Balls.
improper disposable of dangerous artifacts.
You'd think someone would have been keeping better tabs on those, but no, we'll chuck them off a bridge.
Yeah, if you chuck something off a bridge, it disappears from the universe forever. You don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
There's a throwaway line at Belsar's wall that
This
is
is how China deals with landfill garbage. I mean, it's not.
Oh no.
This is not really what you're going to do with these unbelievably powerful artifacts.
Come on, Warrior of Light. We thought you were smarter than that.
Like, these eyeballs are just, the motive force for thousands of years of war. That's all.
There's
chuck it off a bridge.
There's a throwaway line in Belsar's wall where Alphino or somebody goes, "They were surrounded by wind and ice ether. There should have been no way to recover those."
Yeah, I know.
But we've demonstrated that that's silly. Like, the whole shtick when you go to fight Garuda is, how do we penetrate this whirling mass of wind ether?
Yes.
And we just kind of do it.
And
In the end, we can't come up with a solution.
it wasn't all that long ago you fought Shiva with, ice ether everywhere.
But yeah.
So yeah,
it is dumb, but they apparently realized it was dumb and put a throwaway line in there.
I mean, it was a nice moment when it happened, but it was also very dumb.
I thought that the Griffin storyline was done very well, though.
Because that just keeps coming back.
Like, this is all Alphino's hubris burning him over and over again.
Yeah, you just give him a good kick while he's down.
Alphino needs all the kicks while he's down.
Yes, he does.
I don't like that boy.
He humbles up a lot after the whole Crystal Braves thing. But Alsage just seems to take great pride in kicking the boy.
It has nothing to do with his character arc, why I don't like him. It's because he takes 20 years to say something that should take one line.
Oh yeah, that's an ongoing meme.
Like, the story moves so much faster and has a much better pace when Alphino is not involved, because
he's basically a professional politician in the making.
Yes.
So, I mean, of course he's going to speak like that. He has to say the minimum amount with the maximum amount of words. That's just how he do.
Yeah.
But it do drive me nuts, too.
Yeah, at least his sister is a lot more uncouth.
His sister and Lisa together have been the best traveling companions because they have the appropriate solution to every single problem as a very simple one. Let's go punch it in the face.
Yeah, just bop it on the snoot.
Thing being bad, go snoop boop. Tell the Garleans no.
Sometimes you just gotta boop something on the snoot.
So I've been having fun with them in the party. Stormblood, I won't be able to make a conclusion on until I
You reach the end.
Yeah, because a whole lot of the current Stormblood storyline is set up and building up for this big climax that's going to happen at the end, where the two nations are going to rebel at the same time and divide the attention of the Empire. And you just don't know how well all this setup's going to work if it doesn't pay off good. So I can't judge Stormblood yet until I get and see the conclusion of this, because they're really banking everything on the ending of Stormblood.
Apparently it is good. I've heard it is really, really good.
So yeah.
So we'll see.
I'm also not married to Japanese aesthetics in games. I can take them or leave them. I don't have a particular like or dislike for them. But Stormblood is very Japanese.
Extremely
in the Doma area.
yes.
In the Doma area, anyway. You know, well, except for Mulgore. Which is where I'm at right now.
I told you it was Mulgore.
I know you did. And then I went to Thunderbluff.
Is it full of cows?
It's full of sheep, but
Enough.
they have they literally have Thunderbluff just chilling there.
Okay.
It's run by the Sun Tribe.
Of sheep.
At least, well, of Amra or whatever they're called.
Sheep.
No, the sheep are their wool supply and their cheese supply. Can you milk sheep?
Yes, you can.
Yes.
We test sheep milk at work.
Okay, because I thought that maybe these sheep were special for a minute. I've never heard of sheep milk.
No,
It's
there's
not
there's
a common thing.
It's not that common, but it's sort of like a niche thing that people buy, usually weird people. But it's sort of like there's like cow's milk is the most common, and then there's goat's milk, which is the next most common. But there's sheep milk, which is the next most common after that. And then, as it turns out, there's also deer milk.
But why though?
I don't know, but I believe I've seen that go through the lab.
Oh dear.
You probably learn a whole lot of secrets about what people eat at your work that you would rather not know.
Yeah, you don't want to know, man. Like, I literally once had to test a bag of dicks.
What, the candy?
No.
Oh.
Would that it was so innocent, Fern.
It was a literal bag of dicks.
Yeah. On that note, by the way, I believe the website is still up, but there's a site that specializes in sending bags of dicks to your friends as gifts.
Yeah, but those are like gummies.
They are gummies, and they're along the same lines as the sugar-free Haribo. So good luck with those. But a bag of
someone
dicks.
somewhere in the world was really did want a bag of dicks.
Of
Perhaps
actual
they really
dicks.
did need to say eat a bag of dicks, but yes, they are sold, and they are sold as a food product.
But why though?
I don't know.
If you're eating a bag of dicks, you might need to reassess your life.
I don't know, and it's horrible, and it's incredibly difficult to test.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Because it's very, very hard to cut.
Yeah.
I'm sure they were very hard to cut.
So that's a topic that we can never talk about again.
Oh, man. I hate it. Now.
I'm just gonna talk to this Ninja Turtle and think of happier times.
I'm thoroughly distracted now. I'm just gonna focus on being Fishy Cat. But yeah, so I've been alternatively leveling Paladin and Dancer, trying to keep them pretty close together. So my max level character has both a DPS and a tank I can do. The last thing we can really talk about is our adventures in low level dungeons, I guess.
Your adventures learning how to trust the heart of the cards.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
no.
I'm playing on controller on computer, and I got the brilliant idea one night. I'm gonna go get Astrologian and go play Yu-Gi-Oh! Healer with a controller.
How about
And
no?
it actually wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I would never want to raid heal like this, but party healing, it's serviceable. You press down on the D-pad to move the cursor through your party members, and then if you manually target with X and your camera like you do normally for your enemy target, and you can have a party target as well as what you have hard targeted as your enemy, so you can actually safely do DPS and heal the group at the same time without too much fiddling around.
That's nice.
The only thing I strongly recommend you do is set a focus target to the tank, so that they're at the top of the list. But yeah, I have been surprisingly able to keep everybody alive. Though we were
Haven't
pushing my
failed
mana.
horrifically.
We were pushing my mana during one fight because I was still figuring out what the buttons did. But yeah, it's interesting. Not a role I am naturally inclined to or have any kind of innate skill at, but something I don't mind goofing off with at least one other person, preferably the tank, in the group who I know.
Except I kept getting lost.
Yeah, well, that's not that hard in that dungeon, considering all the optional paths in there. But yeah, we did what you call it twice, I think.
Okay, Muna.
Yeah, the manor. And we did Ifrit twice.
The discussion got kicked off by me. I think I linked it to Ari. Somebody had built a controller for Astrologian
Oh dear.
that was a Yu-Gi-Oh! Dual disc.
Some people have way too much time on their hands. I would like some of that time. Give it.
So this inspired me to try Astrologian. And I think you were mentioning doing something with a healer at the same time when I was thinking about it, so I just went and got it. And started Yu-Gi-Oh! On people. Astrologian is very complicated from the cards and how they work. There's shortcuts and ways you can learn what cards do what, and quick reference how to put them on. All that crap is above my pay grade right now.
Or
if you can at least find your benefit button, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you could roll up
So
a
keep it
scholar
on
and
your bar, please.
just bubbles.
Oh yeah, so you start with Benefic 1 and Benefic 2, and I had taken Benefic 1 off the bar because I forgot when you lower down in dungeons and you scale down, you lose abilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's like, oh, at my level, I've only got my AoE heal. That's why I'm not healing very much. No,
it's
you
'cause
just
you're
took
bad.
your heal off your bar.
Although in a lot of cases where those abilities become superseded, it automatically puts the higher rank on the bar.
If it's actually being superseded, it will just get replaced. If it continues to exist, it means that there's still a use for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was during an Ifrit fight, but it was K. All I needed was Helios.
I mean, it is Ifrit. It's as long as everyone kills the nails, it's not too big a deal.
Well, that was the problem.
Oh.
You see, there was me on the nail, and it took the other DPS a while to figure out where the nail was.
If there might be a way for the tank to help, but I am afraid to turn the boss around to face the nail because that's where everybody is standing.
No.
No.
Yeah. It's probably the simplest boss mechanic in the game. He drops nails. Turn around, kill the nails. Then go back to your tank rank.
Not nails. Nail singular, because we're doing story mode here.
Oh, right.
Hard
there
mode
is
is 4 nails. Story
hard
mode is just
nails.
one.
That's
Except
right.
that one is in the middle of the arena, and if you stay in the middle of the arena,
Get smushed.
you're not. Well, it's not that you're going to get smushed. It's that the safe spot for DPS to stand is in a sort of a donut ring halfway between the center and the outside rim.
Mm-hmm.
That line that line parallel to the circumference is the safe locations for DPS to stand in the second phase after the nail, because those are the lines that's the line where you can move easily out of the center focused and rim focused AoE circles. We forgot to tell Abo this.
Yeah. Ava died.
He got
'Cause
smushed.
he killed the nail and he continued standing dead center in the middle of the arena. And so if you stand dead center in the middle of the arena, you simply won't have the time to run out of the AoE most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Because it's a big one.
Well, it's not really a big one, it's an odd shaped one because it's 4 overlapping circles in a square in the center.
Yeah.
And he went from full health to dead.
Yeah.
Yep. Because if you happen to be standing dead in the center, you'll get hit four times by it. So
Yeah. And even on
because
story
your health
mode, you're
is
going to
changed.
get deleted by that.
Yeah, I mean they can't make everything too easy on you.
No.
This isn't Singularity Reactor after all.
This isn't looking for raid.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So yeah, we've been screwing around in Final Fantasy 14 and having some fun with it.
Yeah.
Just alternating between goofing off on Astrologian and fishing, doing some story quests with the main classes. And yeah, I still don't have much to report on with Dancer despite unlocking it. Because I still don't have technical step, which is where you actually unlock the whole class mechanic. Because right now I got this pathetic like half dance that gives a 5% damage buff and does a good chunk of single target damage. But the real juice is technical step. That's the full 4-step dance.
Yep.
But I don't have that yet.
All right.
So I can't really report on it. Although as anybody that's run a group with me with Dancer will quickly hear, where are my feathers? Because you need procs on procs to get feathers to accrue as a resource, which is all luck based. And then you have to proc with those feather abilities to get your second feather. So you're procs on procs on procs on procs. And if you don't get the first procs on procs, you just don't have feathers. And if you don't have feathers, you're not doing any damage because you don't have anything to weave in between your main combo, and you're just going 1-2 1-2.
That's kind of weird that they've done that, because they stripped all that off the Machinist. Machinist used to be very, very proc heavy. If you didn't get your procs, you were basically just auto-attacking.
Yeah, I can... If you ever see me playing Final Fantasy 14 and streaming with Dancer, you can watch what I do, and there's a marked difference between when I have feathers and when I don't.
Yeah.
Dancer is very boring if you don't get any feathers.
I will actually probably be leveling up Dancer as my next class. And I will be doing it on the Lion Man.
Oh boy.
Because you know it's got to be done.
That's going to look so absurd.
I've got to find the flowiest, danceriest costumes as well.
The Dancer costumes are kind of iffy until they start getting closer to endgame, then they start looking really good. And then they start looking really sleut at the very end game.
Yeah. Although, as you're leveling, then the Bard and the Machinist share the costumes, so they all look the same.
Yeah. Do you use aiming gear?
Yep.
As a Machinist?
Yeah. Bard, Machinist, and Dancer all use aiming.
So yeah. We ran a bit long on the Final Fantasy talk, but it's really all we kind of got. So
It's about all there is, so let us take a little bit of a break. Why is this doll talking to me? And on that question, we should take a break.
All right, here's some music, folks. We'll be right back. And we're back.
Yup. So,
So,
we don't have a whole lot of news to talk about, because even though there's been the big announcements, there's been nothing of note.
yeah. I mean, we could talk about the merits of a certain alleged horse medicine.
We'll be erased from the internet if we do that.
But please don't. We could talk about how Monkey Ball just seems to be adding everybody as playable characters now.
Yeah. Remember how we were talking about Monster Rancher last week?
Yeah, you got the Suezo, the eyeball thing in there, and yeah, it's still just as horrific as you might expect. Also, Hello Kitty. So, because it's Japan and Hello Kitty has to be in literally everything.
My aunt loves Hello Kitty.
I see. I don't know what the appeal of it all is.
Well, the Sanrio characters are sort of a cultural phenomenon, I think, in Japan. Like, there's an entire anime series from a few seasons back, which is basically about Bishonen that like Sanrio characters. Like, that's the whole show.
I see.
Oh no.
Oh no.
AI tanks don't know how to stand out of bad breath.
Oh no. Bad Breath is the single worst move I think has ever been put into a JRPG. I mean, it's not like there's some moves that enemies do that just straight outright kill you. But Bad Breath is just a very slow, very painful death.
It's insult to injury, really.
Yes. So I'm going to dig for a few little things. Don't really want to talk about the China nonsense. Basically,
It's basically China being China.
yeah, no video
China
games for
bad.
you if you're in China.
Yeah,
But
China-
it does have interesting implications, though.
It
Like,
does.
if you want to draw them out, like, because like we've got Tencent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in order for them to continue doing their business, they need gamers to exist. And if you put like really draconian restrictions on video games, eventually the hobby dies out. So that's going to dramatically increase their motivation to do further offshore investments, not just because they want to give Chinese interests further control over Western markets, but because for the existence of their own business and livelihoods, they need to have offshore investment in markets which aren't regulated in this way.
Yeah. On the other side of that coin, there's been that big push lately by Western developers to pander to China because it's basically a big old candy jar of free money.
Except this doesn't work in any particular way, and as they become more capricious about it,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to become less and less of a considering it a surefire thing. Like, I think the best example that I've heard of recently is that new Marvel movie, Phase 4 Marvel movie,
Ugh.
the Asian styled one. I don't know anything about Marvel characters, so I don't.
Nobody knows
Oh,
anything
the-
about that character anyway. It's fine.
The one that only character people know is Iron Fist?
Yeah.
What? I don't know.
This is some new...
You can't ask me questions about this.
Yeah, it's a martial arts character that nobody knows about. Because he's not Iron Fist.
For all appearances, this character exists to pander to the Chinese market, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's most likely going to be the first real Marvel movie flop because it's not conventional cape shit and nobody knows this character
After Black Widow.
so it is, they know that, and they are trying to pander to the Chinese market, but big but the thing is, it was denied classification in China.
Oh.
So all of that money has now been pitched out there, but it turned out in the end it was all a waste.
Yeah.
So unless they can butter up the right people to get that lack of classification withdrawn and get into that market, suddenly we're in a position where you can no longer count China as a sure thing.
So we shall see at least what the implications for the video game industry are going to be. Although I am interested to see what the implications for Marvel are as well, because Black Widow was a massive flop as well.
Well, no, the problem with Black Widow is it wasn't a flop. Black Widow is sort of like, it wasn't a flop kind of in the way that the new Star Wars trilogy wasn't a flop, but Solo was, regardless of whether or not it was good or bad, it was a flop. And it was a flop because because the one was which deserved to be a flop weren't, and everybody did go to see them and then found out that it was bad.
Yes.
And that dissuades them from seeing the next one, and that's how these flops go. So while Black Widow was bad, it was not a flop because everybody was still looking for their cape shit.
Yeah,
And
although I have to check out the numbers. I should swear I saw somewhere it actually lost money.
I don't know that it did, but it won't qualify as a flop even if it loses money, because Hollywood doesn't count losing money as a flop if it builds the brand for the future.
Yeah.
So they can write off a certain amount of that.
Yeah, and there's a degree of sense in that. But
however, there are limits. There are limits with what you can do with that logic.
Yes. And Marvel's been kind of straining things a bit since, well, hell, since Endgame. Yeah, if they just finished everything at that point, I don't think anyone would have complained. But yeah, we'll see. We shall see. What's next?
So I was hoping you would have a bit more info on this. For instance, you follow this type of thing more than I do.
Okay. Which thing would that be?
The Sonic stuff.
I only found out about Sonic Colors today. It's a buggy mess.
The reports are numerous and extensive.
And not at all surprising.
Yeah. With the whole game appearing just broken.
Yeah. Can we just not, please? Sonic Colors is one of the few good 3D Sonic games, and
Not anymore.
Not anymore. But having it put out there as a remake or with more content on it and another playable character at points, great. But yeah, it's out and it's a buggy mess.
Yeah. Also, you can tell the game was going to have problems because it had a specific review embargo, apparently.
Yeah, review embargoes are never a good sign.
At least on the PC version.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, especially on the Switch, it's actually even worse.
Yeah, I've heard the Switch is particularly awful.
The Switch version is being compared to Sonic 06. So, that says all you need to know.
I don't know what that means at all.
Sonic 06 was... the perfect dump via Storm.
It is the most broken Sonic game that there has ever been released.
And even when it does work, it's awful.
Yeah. It's the one that had the girl kissing Sonic, and all the furries got attached to it.
Yep.
Too gross.
It has Silver, and his "it's no use" spam, where he basically gets you in a corner and just spams a lockdown ability, so you can't do anything until you die.
Yeah, he's a rather infamously broken boss, in that he will just get you stuck in a loop where he will grab you telekinetically, throw you down, and before you can do anything, he'll grab you again.
Yeah.
And he'll do, if he does it in the right spot, which is anywhere at the edge of the arena, he does it forever.
Yeah. It's supposed to kill you, but it doesn't.
Because you'll bounce into one of your rings if you're on the edge of the arena?
Yeah. So you just stay there permanently, and the only way to get out of it is reset the console.
Yeah, you gotta do a soft or hard reset.
Gotta reload your game. Yeah. There is a long, well-documented history of just how awful Sonic 06 is.
Yeah, so apparently most of the bugs with colors are actually not gameplay, but graphical, and that the game just doesn't work. It'll show like color bars and crap on on your screen, and the UI and the gameplay elements will just disappear and de-render.
Yeah, got a couple of pictures here where the textures have just exploded into some Technicolor hellscape.
Yeah, it's a mess.
Yeah, that's when it doesn't just die behind a loading screen too.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people that were, well, not a lot of people, I knew a couple people that were looking forward to this because they like Sonic Colors. And I tried to warn them, man. It's a Sonic video game.
But
you know how this
every now
goes.
and again, you get a good one, and that's the worst part about it.
The last good one was Adventure 2.
Mania.
I think you people should stop waiting for good Sonic games to happen.
Oh yeah, I don't.
Like,
At this point,
the miss rate is ridiculously high compared to the hit rate.
At this point, if there is a Sonic game, it's probably going to be awful. If it turns out to be good, then that's a happy bonus for everyone. But don't hold your breath.
We will settle for just not broken.
I'd just settle for, playable. Sometimes that's too high a bar.
We got, what? We got Unleashed, which, while functional, is clunky as all get out during the werewolf segments.
If they took out the werewolf sections, Unleashed would be fantastic.
Yeah, that's the impression I get from it. And then you have, this new release of Colors, which is literally unplayable for some people. Generations was good, but Generations was also done by a third-party team compared to the people that normally put together Sonic games.
Also, so is Mania.
Yeah. So the lesson here is if you give Sonic to anybody other than Sonic Team, you get a functional product.
Yeah. So Sonic Team just should not make a Sonic game.
Well, so is what we're saying here, functional product is the level we're shooting for, is it?
Well, in the case of Generations and Mania, those were actually good.
It's hard to tell in retrospect by so many bad Sonic games, so many times in a row, or so many broken ones, because Generations came out after the 06 debacle.
Yes. And it actually has 06 content in it, because, of course it does.
Yeah,
they would have tried
to
Boom. Forget everything. It was pre-Boom. Boom was awful.
Yeah. And that's another one that was broken.
Mm-hmm. Like the
the TV show had seemed kind of novel.
The TV show is actually pretty decent, and Robotnik is actually a joy to watch in that show because he's just so cartoonishly, stupidly evil sometimes. But Sonic Boom had
cartoonishly evil, sort of like his job, isn't that who he is?
Yeah, it's exactly his job. What am I supposed to be doing? Oh, okay. I'm supposed to beat these guys up and then cover them in paint. Right. I should actually read the quest descriptions.
Yeah.
So yeah, Boom was awful, but the TV show was good. Mania and its expansion were fantastic. But they're also ripping on basically Sonic and Knuckles. They took everything out of that playbook and recreated it.
It was a functional playbook.
It's a very good playbook. Yeah, absolutely nothing wrong with it. But
yeah, it's just whenever there's a 3D Sonic game, especially the chance of you getting a booby prize, and that's if you get it for free, are just so high.
Yeah, Sonic Forces. Anyone?
Forces, Boom, 06, this new Colors reboot. I'm forgetting some. Help me out here.
No doubt. Like Black Knight. That was a thing apparently, so yeah, let's give Sonic a sword.
Yeah. Shadow the Hedgehog.
I played a lot of Shadow the Hedgehog.
Why?
Because I was young, dumb, and I wanted to see how awful that rabbit hole went. It went all kinds of awful.
No, I bet you were just an edgy boy.
I was not that edgy. I've always hated Shadow. Because
he would have been a bit old for edgy at that point.
Yeah. I was beyond the edgy phase. But, yeah, edgy, you're looking at like 13, 14-ish. 15.
You could have had late onset Chunibyo.
I hate that that's actually a thing.
Oh
But-
my goodness.
Oh, Sonic, Shadow the Hedgehog is like step one. Let's give Shadow a gun. It's
Well,
just
guns are edgy.
guns are edgy, and let's have him beat up Sonic a couple of times, except not all the time because like the branching storyline thing was pretty decent, and which is why I ended up playing more of it, just because to see what all the storylines were, and all of the endings are edgy and stupid, every single one of them. So yeah, it's essentially Shadow has an identity crisis. The game,
He's edgy and he's emo.
yes,
He's a Gmo.
edgy more.
Everything about this is grotesque.
Yes, it is, and I hate it. I think I've still got the game somewhere on CD. It'd be in
Wasn't
with
it
my.
like-
It'd be packed in with my PS2 stuff.
Man. Yeah, the last good Sonic game I played was 06. I played Generations, but I don't count Generations as a normal Sonic game.
Yeah, it's kind of a showcase of the best hits and, mediocre hits.
And with a competent development team.
Yes.
But yeah, the 06 was the last, or not 06. Sonic Adventure 2 was the last competently put together Sonic team game. It just ain't a good track record. That's a long time ago.
That is
That was
a
Dreamcast.
long time. That is Dreamcast. Good grief. So,
Come on, people. It's time to give up on Sonic. Just take him out behind the shed and put him out of his misery.
Yeah. And at this time, it is definitely his misery. And our misery. Oh, boy.
So, yeah.
But the problem, I think the worst part is the formula for a good Sonic game exists. We've seen it. It's there, and Sonic Team has even done it, sort of. And then they've
Marketing
ruined it.
department.
But yeah. So
See,
this should have been absolutely no surprise to anyone.
yeah. So yeah, there's that. That was the only real news that I found that looked interesting because people were beating up on Sonic, and I'm always good to beat up on Sonic.
Yeah, it's low hanging fruit.
There just ain't a whole lot much else this week. I want to talk about the HoloLive girls, but there ain't much to talk about with the new gen yet. They just haven't found their feet yet.
Yeah, we do have the PlayStation Showcase coming up next week. That's going to be... Yes. That's going to be...
Yeah, I just don't care.
I honestly don't care. How about this, Sony? Make more consoles.
I just don't trust these people. Like, oh, a new press conference or a new thing's coming along. It's going to tell us about all the great new widget that's coming. No, it's not.
Nah.
It's going to tell us a whole bunch of lies, and then when the game actually comes out, it's going to be a buggy, unfinished mess with semi-competent writing for maybe the first part of it, and then the writers all fell asleep, and it's going to be terrible by the end of it. And that's if you're lucky, and it's not totally woke garbage
because they're cheaper.
Yeah, and that's on top of having to sit through a virtue signal filled presser with, hey, look at all these token diverse women of color.
That color is purple.
That's their hair color.
Yes. I really do not want that. It's just, we don't care who makes the game. Make a good game. That's what people want.
It used to be we could get excited.
We're not even asking for that anymore. We're just asking for a game that works.
Yeah, just make a game.
Yeah, I think. Remember when I was heaping praise on Resident Evil 8, 7, and 8 just for being a complete game?
Yeah.
That's where we're at now.
That's where we is.
Like, there's absolutely nothing remarkable about what Resident Evil 8 does. It does a few things really cool and good, but it's just a finished game, and that's all I care about these days.
If
That's
it's
how
good,
far the bar
that's a
is dropped.
bonus.
Yeah, if it's good, it's a super bonus. I just want something finished.
Yeah. But no, everything's got to be done by the deadline now, and that deadline is never far away enough. because the decisions are being made by people who know nothing about video games.
Yeah, we need to burn the industry down and rebuild it.
It's sooner or later it will have another crash. It's
Like
going to happen.
We have a big enough backlog that we could easily weather a crash at this point.
Oh yeah.
Like somebody will put if the only multiplayer we can do is Red Alert 3 with janky homebrew net play, we'll do it.
That's how Red Alert 3 is supposed to be played these days.
Yes. Like, we don't need your servers. We don't need all your new woke products. Just burn it all down and restart.
No, Red Alert should be played in spice.
Spice.
Ice.
I mean, it'll be a nice throwback to the old days where you had to spend an hour wrestling with dial-up internet connections and trying to get a LAN connection to work to play StarCraft.
Oh, man.
Didn't they gut Leon out of Diablo as well?
Yeah, they did,
Yeah.
and they tried to sneak it past when nobody would notice. We did mention this. They've done it before. They did that just before
at the launch of Diablo 3.
No, this is for the Diablo 2 remake.
Oh yeah, they snuck that out too.
Yeah, that was right before the director got sacked. Possibly because he flubbed sneaking that little factoid past people.
The fish have become wary of my presence. It might be time to shift position.
They know what you're doing.
I've ground up to level 58 and a half.
It's a big
Well, 58 and a quarter.
I've nearly used up all my rested state at long last.
Yeah. I am nowhere near it. I have no idea what my rested state even is anymore. Although I am just about to hit level 67.
Nice.
That means I can go do another gunner quest. Go figure out what on earth is going on because, yeah. I have noticed that the class quests at this point, for the machinist anyway, are very short, very brief.
Mine was a tournament arc for Paladin.
That's actually kind of cool.
Like, it's just go to Ulda and participate in the tournament.
Just tournament arc?
Yeah, it's just a straight-laced tournament arc.
Yeah, the machinist quest actually continues on the end of Heavenswood, where they're establishing the civil police force.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you kind of follow that storyline and help get all that set up. It's pretty cool. But it's also, yeah, short and brief and disappointingly short. I'd love to see that storyline explored a little bit more.
The Stormblood era ones tend to be a bit more in depth, generally speaking.
Oh, good.
But I mean, I guess it depends on how much backstory you've already gotten out of the class. For instance, like the one in for Warrior is continuing, and at this point, there's like, oh well, they've managed to train a squadron of warriors now, but they all need to sort of be acclimated to their power and that sort of thing. And yeah, they've now formed a special division in the Maelstrom to go and hunt monsters and stuff.
I'll have to try the Summoner one again, because the Realm Reborn Summoner storyline was actually really good. Because you had this big bad running around who was kind of cartoonishly stupid, but yeah, you come into Heavenswood, and if I recall correctly, the story is he wasn't working alone. So yeah, you need to find another big bad.
I see.
Somehow this ends up you getting Persona Ifrit though, so I'm not sure what happens there. Oh, Persona Bahamut, sorry, I should say.
Yeah, can't you also get Phoenix later?
Yes. So you get 2 big personas. Or stands, depending on what flavour weeb you want to be today.
Yeah. Have you seen the Jocat animations for Final Fantasy 14?
The crap guides, yes.
Crap guide to tank and healer. I like, but my image of Conjurers now is intrinsically tied up in the theory that he advances that Sage is based on what happens if you put Carbuncle in a blender.
he's not wrong. But he also did a crap guide to Monster Hunter and a crap guide to D&D as well, which are all worth watching.
Yeah, I've seen those as well. I just mentioned the Final Fantasy 14 one since it's apropos to the current topic of conversation.
Yeah.
What do you do if the tank is full health? DPS the bad guy.
Yes. Don't just stand around picking your nose.
You don't pay my sub?
I pay my sub. You're ruining my fun. DPS the bad guy.
I tend to not fuss about it too much unless we start hitting enrage timers. Like,
Yeah, likewise.
pug dungeons are stressful enough without adding needless additional stress.
Yeah. If you get some DPS out of the healer, then that's all great. But it's a bonus, really.
Yeah, I don't understand people who get really, really wound up about it. Like, yes, it is true that this game is balanced around the healer mainly doing DPS and healing when it is necessary to heal. And this is different to other games. Yes, that's true. However, it's just not worth getting mad about in a dungeon.
Mm-mm.
Like, if he had joined your, like, savage farming team, then by all means, put him on blast.
Yeah, different
But he
matter
didn't.
there.
He just queued up in the dungeon queue.
Yeah, he's here for a good time. Don't ruin the fun of everyone else. Don't be a jerk.
Like, there's also room for argument if he's like queuing in the, the 80s, the 80 roulette for dungeon farming for tomestones or whatever, where the expectation is that you refine your game to be able to do it quickly. But leveling, nah, don't care.
Yeah,
Don't care at all.
All right. Is there anything else to talk about?
We kind of stretched already.
Yeah.
What else?
Unless you
Well,
want.
there's the new
Oh.
PS5 SKU is a thing.
Oh yeah.
It's
Right,
worth
that thing.
mentioning because it's a real thing, and it's of concern to people who might want to buy one. Presuming they can access one. So basically, there's a new. I don't know if they have formally declared it's a new SKU, but it's functionally a new SKU. It's a new version of the PS5. So the big difference between the old version of the PS5 and the new version of the PS5 is the new one weighs a third of a kilo less.
Does it exist? Because
It
the
does
original
exist.
doesn't.
So basically, they have taken a humongous amount of the metal out of it.
Okay.
Most of the copper is now gone, because the vast bulk of the size of the PS5 is attributable to the humongous heatsink that is necessary in order to get the thing to tick over. But copper is extremely valuable. It's not a cheap metal. A lot of people think of it as a cheap metal because it's like in all the wires and stuff, but I don't know if I'm going to be dating myself here, but there's a reason why people used to strip the electrical wiring out of dilapidated houses to take to the junker,
Oh yeah.
because copper is worth a lot.
Yeah, it's a fairly common metal, but it's in extremely high demand.
Yes, and what's more is it's increasingly difficult to get because of there's various shipping constraints. There's the Biden economy, and various other factors. Copper is now thin on the ground and quite expensive, so they've basically stripped out a lot of the copper and some of the aluminium out of the heatsink, and have basically the system now just runs hotter. It runs hotter.
That's reassuring.
The big sort of concern about this is lifespan. Like how long is the device going to be properly functional for if it's running hotter? Nobody has had the opportunity to really do a good crunch on whether this alters its capabilities processing wise or not, but and there is some sort of like down the road, like 10 years from now, when games are really pushing the limits of what that system can do, presuming the game industry doesn't implode before then, will these higher temperature, lower heat sink capacity systems, will they be able to keep up with those really high end games? So there is that concern. However, it's not really quite as bad as it sounds, all told, because generally speaking, the systems, even the release hardware, will not be being operated in the same way it was at release, because Sony has been pulling down a retarded amount of telemetry on the operation of the system as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And generally, you can assume a significant portion of the heat efficiency of a console is to do with how the fan curve is set up. And because they're collecting telemetry, they are now able to patch adjustments to the fan curve in real time. So, while nobody knows for sure, it's entirely possible that rather than just being desperate to save a few bucks because it's so hard to get copper right now, and the manufacturing of the system will become more expensive if they keep using a ginormous heatsink, they may technically have found that, oh, well, this is the actual use case in practice over a long period of time when people have this thing in their homes, and using this data we've collected since release, if we adjust the fan curve like so, the heatsink being this big was always overkill, and we don't actually need it. That is also a theoretical possibility, and I suppose it depends on what they think that their legal risks would be if they were trying to do something which would, curtail its power on the top end or something like that. I don't feel like they would do that, since they're going to want to extend their development proposition for as long as possible in this console cycle, especially since the console cycle is, like, in its current form, we don't know how much longer it will last before the gap between PCs and consoles gets too small. And Sony's shtick as a console manufacturer is to produce the system on which the big AAA blockbusters are, and you're going to need as much juice as possible to render all those textures for those blockbuster style titles.
Mm-hmm.
So you do there is a certain amount of grey area where they are opening themselves up legally, because they didn't really declare a new product as such, and so they're continuing the marketing under the old form of the product. And so depending on how consumer laws are written in any given country, they could get done for selling a different product to what they're implying that they're selling, because they haven't said anything about this. The only reason we know about this is that somebody did a teardown on it and found that, oh, well, in several countries, Japan and Australia, I think, are the key ones. I'm not 100% sure about that, because I'm sort of half remembering what I read about or heard about earlier in the week. That's only limited release so far, but it's going to spread around, but they never said anything, and that could cause issues in consumer rights if people thought they were getting something that they weren't actually getting. I don't know how well they've covered themselves in the legal arena there, but yeah, so it is something people are concerned about, because they're not really sure what the implications are or will be down the line, but that is a thing. They are going to be rolling this out as the standard model across the entire world, but it does run. I think the sort of dartboard measurements have been that it exhausts air that's about 3 degrees hotter than the previous one, which is quite a bit. But it's still not, from what I've heard, it's still not really in the ballpark of like release PS3s and release PS4s, which you could heat a room with.
Yes.
And sounded like a jet engine taking off. But yeah, it is definitely a thing. There is new PS5 hardware in the wild, and this is the probably the first time they've released a new version which seems like it's a strict downgrade, not counting things which involved removing backwards compatibility and whatnot. But
yeah. But hopefully, if it means they're going to get consoles actually, on the market, being sold.
Yeah, that's the theory, is that if they can source enough materials per console better, they'll be able to make more of them, and they're probably trying to do this as a way to give them capacity to ramp at the end of the year for Christmas. That would be my guess. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, we shall have to wait and see, because they are way behind on demand.
Yeah, but they're still already in the profitable zone. They've paid off their production marketing, and now the console itself is being sold at a profit already,
which is actually quite an achievement.
Yeah, I think the PS4 was faster. The PS4, I think, only took 6 months, but the PS3 took like 5 years or something.
Yeah,
it was a very long time.
It took ages.
But I'm not really surprised since the PS3 uses really janky hardware, and so it would have been very expensive to manufacture.
Yeah. All right. So with that, I think that's it for the show. Unless you want to talk about No Man's Sky.
I don't really know anything about No Man's Sky, and it's like, well, a game that we don't actively play has gotten another patch. Hooray! Why don't we
Yeah.
talk about World of Warcraft instead? They're getting a patch too.
Yeah.
Although I've heard that they're on the listen to the players swing of the pendulum right now.
Yes, because they're getting yelled at from every angle, so that's usually one of their defense mechanisms.
Yeah, so they've done a bunch of stuff in World of Warcraft, which apparently has made some people happy, or at
But
least have
not
announced that they're going to.
everyone, because a lot of people are
No.
starting to see through the ruse this time.
Yeah, they don't trust the team
No.
because they've seen this before, that they get baited with some favourable changes and then no overarching changes made to their broader design philosophy of just bolting on a retarded system and then insisting everybody has to like it.
Mm. All right. So I think that's it then. Anything else? Absolutely nothing else.
No,
Not unless Ari was actually able to discover something about the new Hearthstone thing.
it's totally incomprehensible to me. It's uses an entirely new game mode with that does not appear to have any connection to the base game other than the artwork and a few of the cards.
So business as usual then.
Well, how is it monetized? That's the real question, because they need dollars.
Yeah, they sell like separate heroes for it. It looks like.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
so what they're doing essentially is they are going to end up splitting their customer base into people who are spending their money on conventional packs and people who are spending their money on the new thing.
Yep.
What they're
Not sure
hoping.
how wise that is.
I guess what they're hoping is most of their current customer base is probably super whales that keep playing and have the sunk cost fallacy full gear, and will just pay for this too.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that there's like the numbers have been pretty scary out of EA on their FIFA thing. You know, their FIFA gacha. It's a
Mhm.
gacha. It's basically a gacha.
It is a
I think
gacha.
it's a gacha. Where there's like only a tiny proportion of their player base actually spend money on the game, which is normal.
Yeah.
But that tiny proportion of the player base accounts for like more than 20% of total revenues for EA.
Yeah, that's the whale market for you.
And though it seems like, based on the stuff that I've heard over the course of, say, the past 12 months, they've come up with some really freaking nefarious ways of getting people sucked in.
Mm.
Like they would put Japanese gacha designers to shame. The only thing they haven't done is include waifus.
Give it time. Give it time. But
Yeah, nobody likes women's soccer. Nobody.
yeah, because look at the spokesperson that Subway's been putting forward. Got so bad to the point that franchise owners were putting signs on the door apologizing for her.
Is it the same stupid purple-haired woman that we've been seeing from the Americans?
The one who's being dragged through the mud now, yes.
Yeah, that stupid bin, and I think they made her a Victoria's Secret model as well or something.
Yeah, they
I
did.
remember that was a story a while back.
So
Instead of women who are actually attractive, they used a purple-haired feminist.
here's an idea. Let's just say if Subway puts someone forward as their new mascot, let's just save time and put that person straight into jail.
Yeah, it would be more efficient.
Yeah. It would just save a lot of time. Alright, so with that, let's get out of here, shall we?
All right. Closing comments go.
I need free time. Hopefully I'll actually have some gaming time this week. We'll see.
You know, there are probably a lot of people who are too young to remember Jared.
He had AIDS.
He's in jail.
Yeah, is he in jail?
He's still in
He's still in
jail.
jail?
He's a pedophile, so...
Oh, that's right. He
So-
was, wasn't he?
Very yes, in jail.
Good.
Yes.
I would prefer a cemetery, but I'll take what I can get.
But my point was more that story is actually really, really old now.
It is. But yeah, people who go and do a rewatch of South Park's greatest hits will inevitably come across the Jared episode.
Yeah.
I don't know about South Park things.
Yeah.
He had AIDS.
What is this quest?
But, yeah. All right. We're a bit stretched this week. Hopefully next week something happens. During the week's fall will be out. Me and Fern will attempt to cobble together something.
We'll figure something
And
out.
I really hope I'm not alone, because we don't want the RE solo show.
I don't know what the odds are going to be like of me being able to cobble together a recording system at my parents' house. I will give it a go.
Yeah.
I will give it the old college try.
Just for reference, by the way, last time I did a solo show, I played the KFC dating sim. So, yeah. Solo shows are a bad idea.
Why?
Because of the
Yep.
memes.
If I get a solo show, Serathis may get his wish.
I was just trying to do a normal show.
Nope, we got to find something absolutely
I've hit-
awful and play it.
I've had to do it twice. And I did my very best to give a proper solo show with proper news segments and stuff.
Nope.
I would try, and I would fail so hard.
Yeah, I did try initially, but there was nothing that week. So, yeah, KFC game happened. Anyway,
So yeah,
do the thing.
Hope we don't have to do that, but we'll see how it do. All right, folks. We'll see you next week. Sayonara. Bye bye.